We are following breaking news on CBS News Colorado. Edgewater police make an arrest more than 6 months after a deadly shooting at a Tesla charging station. The suspect at the time claimed self-defense, and now he's facing charges of second-degree murder. The victim was Adam Fresquez. His family is speaking outside the Jefferson County courtroom after the suspect's first court appearance. Let's listen in.
I felt today was a victory for the family and for the Edgewater community. This fight is not over. This is the beginning of a continuous battle for justice in relation to the family. They finally get an opportunity to mourn in peace, something that has been deprived for the past 7 months. So the allowance of justice, I believe, is shining through here today. We definitely want to thank Alexis King for her work on this case, having to start from scratch, having to launch a new investigation, having to take all things into consideration. Yes, it was longer than we expected, but Alexis King showed out today, and we plan to stand by the family through the trial, through the proceedings, to ensure that the justice sticks. We wonder how come, after 3 months of investigating, the DA's office can find second-degree murder and manslaughter charges when Edgewater police tried to convince us that a crime did not take place, that nothing was wrong or outside of the ordinary. This is unacceptable. This leads us to believe that the people of Edgewater are not safe as long as Edgewater police are policing their communities. But today we take the victory knowing that Jeremy Allen Smith is behind bars with a $300,000 cash-only bond for the murder of Michael Fresquez.
You mentioned how long it took for there to be a solution today. Just walk me through the initial emotions that you all may be feeling. Is it relief? Are we still frustrated? Just tell me how we're feeling in this moment after the judge's ruling.
I am not relieved. My son is still not here. That's all I have to say.
One of the things that we just heard you say is that Alexis King started a new investigation.
Correct.
Do you feel that the Edgewater, and I want to clarify this, you're saying that Edgewater police were ready to walk away from this and not do more?
Yes.
And then the DA's office restarted something new? Is that what you're saying?
We are saying that the Edgewater Police Department concluded their investigation and deemed that they were not going to press criminal charges against Jeremy Smith.
Why do you think that happened?
I believe the investigation was mishandled from the very beginning. The investigation into Jeremy Smith, he should have been arrested on the scene. A toxicology should have been taken from him from the very beginning. There's a process. This man does not get to circumvent the process. An arrest should have been taken. An arrest should have happened. Charges should have been filed. Whether he was innocent or guilty, he got to circumvent the process. The family did not get an opportunity to mourn, and critical evidence may have never been collected.
Mother and father asked for $1 million bond. What was your response today when the judge said it would be $300 cash only?
I was okay with it because his lawyer or his attorney asked for a $2,000 bond or something, or $10,000 bond, something crazy like that. They said that they argued that he was not a flight risk. Well, he wasn't a flight risk because he was never arrested or charged. So now it's a different story. So yeah, I'm concerned. And for them to say, or his mother to say, you know, my son was scared and he watched his back. We didn't even know your identity until yesterday. So how about you understand it from my side? At least you could see your son. At least you could visit your son. At least his children could see him or talk to him on the phone. I don't get that. My grandchildren don't get that.
Lena, do you feel like the manslaughter charge is enough?
No. I absolutely do not believe manslaughter. I would like, and I'm begging for Alexis King to charge him with second-degree murder in addition to manslaughter. It is not enough. It is not justice. He is not equal to my son.
When did you guys learn that charges were finally filed?
Last night at 5 o'clock, around 5 o'clock.
Did the DA's office contact you? How did you
My attorney contacted me and they let me know, and 10 minutes later I got a call from different reporters. I was getting calls from different reporters. So Edgewater Police, a week after my son was killed, Officer Sonstegard had already told me that charges were not going to be filed. You didn't even do a fair investigation at that point. How can you already determine that he was going to walk? That's all I've ever asked, was for a fair investigation.
He told us that it looked like it was not going to look like any criminal charges, just straight in front of our face said,
A week.
this doesn't look like there will be any criminal charges filed. I'm sorry.
This was a week.
This was a week
the
after
shooting.
the shooting.
Remember the miscarriage. The miscarriage of justice essentially is the family doesn't get a first-degree murder charge because it was botched by Edgewater Police Department in the first case. And so,
Can we get you over here,
Oh, yeah,
friend?
sure.
I'm sorry, please. And say your first and last name, please, and spell both and who you're with.
Dr. Jose Silva, Josesilva, and I'm with the Silva Family Foundation. Essentially, the second-degree murder charge is, the bridesmaid. This should have been a first-degree murder charge, but it wasn't because of the botched investigation by Edgewater Police Department. And so then we, as a community, have asked Alexis King then to go forward with the highest degree of charge. It would be impossible, nearly impossible, to bring the investigation that Edgewater did to a jury and ask a jury to find first-degree murder. And so this family is never going to get the justice of seeing this man behind prison or behind bars for the rest of his life because of the botched work that Edgewater Police Department did. And so the conciliation prize of second-degree murder, that doesn't bring back Adam at all. What this then highlights the issues that and the pattern and practices that are taking place in Edgewater Police Department, but more importantly, the residents of Jefferson County should be alarmed. Not just alarmed by this case, but alarmed that there is no confidence or credibility in a police department because an individual who should have been charged with first-degree murder has a chance to be charged with second-degree murder. Manslaughter, we know that carries 12 years, and second-degree murder is 48 years. But this individual should have been charged with first-degree murder, predetermined, premeditated murder because of his actions returning back. The video evidence was always there. Edgewater Police said it wasn't there. The video evidence and the forensic evidence of Adam being bear-maced in the front was always there. The predetermined factors of this case is a first-degree murder case, but unfortunately because of their inadequacies, failures, and just complete nonsense, this family won't get the justice they deserve with a first-degree murder charge. And so second-degree murder it is. And $1 million bond should have been the bond.
Do you feel like it was botched, or do you feel like it was intentional on the part
Both.
of the
Let's just say both.
Edgewater PD?
Well, I think both in some ways, right? One is when you come to the family with the information they gave, not doing the due diligence, failing to follow protocol, circumventing all of the evidence. Let's just say there's no confidence in Edgewater Police Department. There hasn't been. And so was there intentionality behind it? I would love to see an internal affairs investigation, top to bottom. I want them undressed. I want that disbanded. They need to be gone. Jefferson County Sheriff should take over at this point in time, and then they reform and reorganize what that looks like because they no longer have the credibility of anybody in the state of Colorado to actually be a judicial force here in our state.
Is that the Department of Justice that would carry out that kind of investigation?
Well, we know that the Attorney General has launched an investigation. We know that Alexis King is looking at it. But it's time for Phil Weiser to get to work. It is time for Alexis King to make those decisions. And it is time for the residents of Edgewater in the state of Colorado to say we demand better from our police departments. And we know that today there's going to be legislation and a press conference that speaks about how do we look at that piece here in this morning. So we know that legislators are looking into this, but it also needs to be held accountable by those that have been elected already.
In the past several months, the family has held a number of demonstrations to call attention to this case. Do you all feel if you had not done that, if you had not done a constant cry for justice, that perhaps charges would not have been filed?
Absolutely, because of the fact that Officer Sonstegaard did tell me a week after my son was killed that he did not, they wanted me to believe that my son was the aggressor. I asked them, was my son pepper sprayed? They said they don't know. I asked them, I had to find out that my son was shot in the back by an autopsy. They didn't even have the decency to call me and tell me. So, yeah, I feel like if it wasn't for my family support and Denver Justice Project and Jose Silva, everybody who came in and helped us with the protest, then no, they would have presented the charges as no charge to Alexis King like they originally told us.
And you said that you found out from reporters that charges were filed?
No, my attorney called me, and then reporters started to call after that.
If it had been for the organizing of people across the Jefferson County and across the Denver area, we would not be in this courtroom today. We would not be seeing charges filed against Jeremy Smith for the alleged murder of Adam Fresquez. It is the organization of people from across the Denver metro area that has brought us here. It has been working with this family having the courage to stand up and actually advocate for themselves and for their son is why we are here today.
Say your first and last name.
My name is John Palmer, that's Joncepalmer, and I'm with the Denver Aurora Community Action Committee.
I would just add one more thing. some of the inconsistencies that this family has been burdened with over the course of this investigation, like Lena said, is that we were led to believe that Adam was shot in his front, that Adam was the aggressor. We were led to believe that Adam was, in fact, not maced in the beginning, that was an act of self-defense.
Police said this, you're saying?
Yes, these were not just police, but the chief of police for Edgewater Police Department. And then we were found out only several weeks later, but through an autopsy, that Adam was indeed shot in the back. We found out yesterday that Adam's front, his clothing, were indeed covered with bear mace. Adam was maced, and then he was shot in the back twice. Jeremy fled the scene, did not turn himself in for over a half an hour later, and was allowed.
That's the other reason we feel we should have had a higher bond. He left the scene. How do we know he won't leave the scene or leave the state now that he is charged, now that charges are coming forward? Edgewater Police Department failed us from the beginning. We were told there was never video. They need to be held accountable, and our job's not done. We're going to still be here every court, and we're going to still keep fighting. And Edgewater PD, we are going to keep coming for you guys because you guys let us down and our community down. And my name is Mario Fresquez, and I'm Adam's oldest brother, Mario Fresquez.
I have one more thing to say if I can. Officer Sonstegard, Chalice, and Brinks also were sitting before me, and they said that Adam pulled his gun. I seen something yesterday that a firefighter said that Adam had his gun still in his pants. Adam did have a gun, but Adam's gun was registered to him. The man who killed my son did not even have a registered gun. But when I asked Officer Sonstegard about that, he said it's not illegal in Colorado. Those were his words.
And these are the inconsistencies that lead us to believe that Edgewater is not a credible police force and should not be allowed to police the municipality of Edgewater.
The chief should resign today.
Doesn't the affidavit indicate that the gun was in his pocket?
Yes.
It was on his
waistline.
person the whole time. It was never removed. And this also aids in the request by Alexis King to do a deep dive into patterns and practice investigations through Attorney General Phil Weiser's office.
So what we would request is the media go and investigate, go in and put pressure on Edgewater Police Department, force a resignation. This is the job of our public media work and the work that you all do. We would call on you all to go and request open records documents, go and find out. There is a problem with the Edgewater Police Department, and we ask you all to join us in finding solutions. But we ask for the resignation of the entire Edgewater Police Department today.
The family's asking for the resignation, is that right?
I am asking for specifically, yes, Sonstegard, Brinks, there's a number of them. I believe, I don't have the list with me, but there are, at least 10 to 12 police officers that we do have concerns with.
And we ran CORAs on all of them, and the chief himself responded to our CORA request in an amount costing us down payment of $1,600, and he would be the responsible party to deliver us the information of his officers. That in and of itself is a conflict of interest and not the way that CORA should be handled.
And we also feel that more charges should be brought. It shouldn't just end with second-degree murder and manslaughter. He left the scene without rendering aid. Why wasn't he charged for leaving the scene? That's a felony in its own category. Somebody's dead. It wasn't an injury. Somebody is dead. Our family member is gone. And he left him there like a dog. He should be charged. He should have multiple charges behind that. It should not stop here. He should never be able to walk out of that jail. My brother will never be able to walk out of a grave or ashes. We will never see him again. And he did that to us. So he needs to be held accountable, and more charges need to be brought. So we ask that he be charged with more.
We wouldn't be here if this was a case of a white man being shot by a random assailant as well. There's an obvious racial bias in this particular case because the family has had to struggle for 7 months. And there's a clear bias in the sense that in a place like Edgewater, a majority white area with a large Latino population as well, we're seeing there's definitely a double standard here. Because if Adam Fresquez had been white, if his last name had not been Fresquez, we would not be. This court appearance would have happened 7 months ago. We wouldn't have been waiting so long. We wouldn't have to fight for so long. People from my organization wouldn't have had to put a CORA request that was responded to by the chief of police asking for a down payment of $1,640. There's an obvious racial bias here, and there's an obvious racial bias in policing that we see in the United States, and we're seeing it here in Jefferson County as well.
You just heard from the deadly Tesla charging station shooting victim's family. We will continue to follow this case on CBS News Colorado at noon. We'll be right back.